Storytide and Harper Audio present Unlock the Dark by Sasa, performed by Caitlin Davies. To those who are lost in the dark, may you find the light that leads you home. 1. If this greasy little scholar didn't get out of her personal space, Elia was going to throw the stupid mystery box in his face, no matter that they had a contract, no matter that she really needed the money from this job. The scholar's dust and ink scent strangled her as he hovered over her shoulder, as if he couldn't allow more than an arm's length between him and the black enameled box she'd been hired to unlock. "So, can you do it?" His voice had an uneasy tremor. Odd. He was the one who had initiated their arrangement. Why be nervous? "Of course I can, Salvius. I'm trying to decide if I should." He huffed, and his breath smelled of oily tavern meat and cheap beer. She wrinkled her nose. He leaned closer, placing a hand on the back of the creaking chair they'd given her. "Excuse me?" He bristled with indignation. "You most certainly should. We had a deal. You can't possibly be thinking of reneging." Elia's gaze flicked up to his face. His nostrils were flared, and he seemed on the brink of saying something regrettable. Her knuckles whitened as she gripped the box, and a collective gasp went around the room. About 15 scholars had crammed into the tiny guildhouse foyer to watch her unlock an old box with unknown contents. Farther back in the house, the general hum of other scholars going about their business continued, despite the sudden silence in the foyer. Elia glared at him. "Back up, or I walk out right now and never work with your guild again." A bluff. Gold was gold, and gods knew she couldn't afford to decline a job. She had to keep the wolf from the door, after all. Salvius blushed and immediately stepped back. "Apologies, conjurista. And please be gentle with the box. It hasn't been opened in over 500 years. No one had mentioned that little fact in the pre-contract negotiations. They'd called it an heirloom, but 500 years made it a historical artifact. Anything could be inside. A curse scroll, an enchanted weapon, a portal to the afterlife. She shuddered. Despite its benign aura, there were a concerning number of wards and curse locks around the box. In her experience, when that much care had been placed into locking something away, then it was best kept bound. The box was small enough to fit in her lap, lightweight, and rustled a little when she shook it, which had caused half the scholars to cry out. This group of scholars were much younger than their invitation had implied. None of them could have been older than 20. They were all male, with matching tattoos on their hands to indicate their guild. Identical library insignias shimmered in embroidered designs on their tunics. Why were a bunch of teenage male scholars interested in a 500-year-old warded box? She should have asked more questions before signing their contract. She met Salvius's eyes. "It seems this is a good time to remind you that my contract clearly stipulates that the contents of the box must be harmless, or I will not proceed with unlocking it." Salvius raised one of his overplucked eyebrows and pursed his thin lips. "And we assured you they are indeed harmless. Though we don't know what's inside, we've been able to determine the contents are non-magical." Several of the scholars nodded at this. "And furthermore, we have very informed guesses about the category of the contents and believe them to be educational in nature." One of the younger scholars snickered, and Elia whipped her head to him. "What's so funny?" The scholar turned bright red and looked helplessly at Salvius, who pinched his nose and let out a breath. "Nothing. Ignore him. He's just nervous." Elia frowned at him. "Why are there so many wards on something harmless and educational, as you say?" Salvius shrugged. "Such things were customary back then. Please, conjurista, the box." The scholars leaned in, all eyes on her. This could so easily go wrong. She should rip up their contract and go home. But rent was due soon. The creditors would be after her like hungry dogs if she missed another payment. Her siblings would go hungry, and these scholars were paying 3 times her normal rate. Her chin lifted defiantly.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?